I don't know.
Hi
There we go.
everybody.
We're
You've
equal
just
now.
witnessed Stuart trying to hog with his big fat face the whole screen. There you go. So,
I am your god.
welcome to Readers of the Lost Art, and we're doing a three roundabout chat about all things digital. And if I can just set it up, I'm then going to hand over to Stuart. So basically, I think digital technology is the spawn of Beelzebub. I think people like Stuart and James here, who'll introduce himself shortly, are largely responsible for its spread, its ubiquitous nature. They are the little demiurges spreading this evil. Whereas my hands are clean, I don't even own a mobile phone, and I resent having to use YouTube. But anyway, so let's all introduce ourselves. You all know me because I'm the what you call it compere of Readers of the Lost Art. Stuart is the recent gimp I've employed for literally
Bruce Gimp.
no money. And James, we're getting on board because when Stuart joined and my little band of helpers, I lost about 100 subscribers. So we're trying
Hoping to get them back.
We're trying to go further down by inviting James on to further this FU to the algorithm and see what depths we can plumb. But anyway, without more ado, over to you, Stuart.
Ta-da! Okay, thanks for joining us on this lovely Friday evening. I want you all there. There we go. So the big question today is, do we need a digital detox? Now, this is constantly in the media. Anyone who looks at news media, turns on the TV, we get these daily news reports telling us we need to put down our mobile phones. We've had too much. We're all burnt out. AI slop is taking over. And this is what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at it from the perspective of philosophy, linking with Paul's channel. We're going to look at it from the perspective of education. And we're also going to get a creator's perspective from James. So without further ado, I want to bring in James first. James, you can kick us off. So you recently posted a video. There we go. You recently posted a video talking about your kind of pain points with YouTube and trying to get subscribers, trying to beat the algorithm. And I think you used the term kind of humanism or humanistic content, humanistic media, as a kind of a snub to the algorithm. You say, I'm going to do it my own way. Can you just take us through that? Maybe start us off with that and kind of what brought you to that conclusion?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been a filmmaker for best part of a decade, just over a decade, working in TV, things like that. So my channel to date has been basically just whinging about the media, Hollywood in particular from a sort of film perspective, and then the BBC mainly from a sort of TV perspective, who I used to work for. I don't have that against me. And so for the last year, I've been fitting YouTube in around my work, and it kind of started like I just wanted to make good content and do it as a hobby, really. And then if it grew, it grew. That's how I started the channel. And then I think it's kind of the universal experience of someone that starts a YouTube channel is that you get a little hit of success and you think, oh, I'm pretty good at this. And then, obviously with my media background, I thought, yeah, I'm really good at this. And then just got hooked. We used to hear a tale of, woe when we were at school of the drug dealer would always give you the first hit for free. YouTube definitely gives you that first hit for free. I mean, I was sort of hanging around the sort of 100 to 300 view mark, and then all of a sudden I jumped up to 15,000, and I was like,
amazing. Yeah.
I'm in now.
It's a dopamine hit.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, well, that's it now. I've arrived, so I'm just going to keep going up. And then I sort of settled around sort of 1,000, 2,000 views per video, and I thought, yeah, that's fine. I'm happy with that. And then it sort of dropped. And it's kind of on me completely, because it's one of those, any kind of success you have, you definitely own. So you have to own your failures as well. And if people are not watching, then they're not interested, and that must be, my fault. So
yeah.
Can I make an observation at this point? Because what intrigues me is, if anything, I think we had a very early chat, James and I didn't accuse him, but I basically said maybe if anything, less is more. You're slightly overproduced. Because I just thought it was hilarious. He put so much effort in, it looked so bloody good. And yet you don't get the reward. And then I'll give you an example so we don't personalize it. Well, it'll be against the person I'm going to slag off, but I can't remember her name anyway. But who's the Korean philosopher you told me to have a look at?
Han Byung-soo, the guy that's in Germany.
I've been reading him all day, but apparently I'm so racist I couldn't remember his name. But I was looking for more just to see, because I'm going to do a few videos on him. So I was looking to see what's out there. And I saw I'm guessing she's some type of academic. And so the knowledge-wise, she was absolutely great. But she had this upward inflection. And I know I sound like a Mardy Ringo Starr. So I can't preach to anyone about an attractive voice. I don't have, we were talking earlier about James is like a white Barry White. He has the perfect voice for all this. You sound a bit nasally, Stuart.
I do, yeah.
I sound like a Mardy Ringo Starr. So, you know, I understand if we weren't particularly appealing, but she had this horrible upward inflection, a voice that cut glass. And she had 330,000 views. I'm thinking, how do people even put up with this? Now I'm going high in Scouse and I'm disproving my own.
Calm down.
But before I hand back to you, I just want to share one little thing. Tree Goblin put a comment and said all iPhones and Android phones should be banned. So I immediately typed back, and people who use them should be regularly birched. And I've got underneath that, YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam. Try changing it a bit. It's my bloody channel.
You got digitally birched.
No, but seriously, this idea about AI and the algorithm taking over, I can't even make an offensive comment on my own channel without this digital Keir Starmer stopping me. It's outrageous.
Well, that's another thing. Something that I've struggled with as well is because, you know, there's certain things you want to say in certain ways that you just can't. You know, and anyone that's sort of talking in the digital platforms knows that, which is, you know, wrong in many ways. And I've never met anyone that's pro censor, and yet we all go along with the censor. Because if you don't, then, you know, you're limited. You're cutting yourself off at the ankles before you even begin.
Yeah.
But I get the strong sense if Stuart was successful in his endeavours, he'd become like chief censor. He's got that apparatchik, you know, in the old Soviet Union. He'd have been in charge of Gulag number 404.
Well, that's it.
303.
Well, everyone wants to have their finger on the button, don't they?
Exactly. I think that's something we're going to touch on today about you know, can you make authentic content? Can you make content that's against the algorithm at the same time as you're trying to beat the algorithm and get popular so people can watch that content that you made against the algorithm? And it becomes a bit kind of like, it's like where do you land there? I mean, James, you've probably seen as a media producer, you've probably seen technology change like extensively over the past 10 years. I mean, at what point did digital approach? I don't just mean like digital cameras or digital filming, but I mean actually integration into podcast networks, interactive media. At what point did that kind of become saturated and people started saying, hey, this is a bit too much now, this is a bit too far? Or have we not reached that stage yet?
It's difficult to answer that because, you know, if you're on the front line, you don't necessarily know what's going on elsewhere. And so if you're a cameraman working in TV, all you're worried about is the viewfinder, you know, and in making sure the light's right and all that kind of stuff. So when you're you know, content creating and you're, you know, trying to put stuff out there, I think really you need to be focused on what you're creating, because otherwise you just won't take steps forward. And, you know, it sounds pretty obvious to say, but if you're too worried, and I think to go back to my experience of my first year on YouTube, I think you get too worried about not how you're perceived, but literally just that you are perceived. And so you start, you know, doing things for clicks. Although I wouldn't say I did things for clicks, but I think I was chasing my
OnlyFans page.
Well,
that's it. Not yet. But it's
James. Do you know? Sorry to interrupt, but do you know that if this all goes a bit badly and we lose the 17 views we've got, underneath all this, I'm just wearing a basque.
Well, I've got some stuff on underneath as well, Paul.
Yeah,
so
we can resort to that.
We're blocked by the AI, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, probably. I think I lost my train a little bit, but
sorry, that was
no, that's fine. I think my point would be, it's hard to know when you're creating content what, you know, exactly where the wind is or how the wind is blowing, and maybe it's not worth even contemplating that, and it's worth about just making sure you put a good product out there. And that's kind of the epiphany that I've had, which I had at the beginning, and then lost sight of on the way,
Yeah.
And now hopefully I'm back there again. So.
Well, how could you explain why is it, given, I'm not, trying to blow smoke up your backside, as the Americans would say, or they'd probably say ass.
Please do.
But given the quality of what you do, because I don't know, Stuart will probably be midway between your production levels and my complete lack of production levels.
Mediocre.
Yeah, but I'm basically an old boomer talking into a camera, and the fact that I could perfect, Keynote Mac slides was like my epiphany. It was like St. Paul on the road to Damascus. That's my level. So I've only ever stayed in that, invalid lane, and I'm absolutely fine with that. But given that your production levels were so high, what on earth makes people watch the AI? And I'm fascinated where this phrase AI slop comes from, because that seems to be the de rigueur phrase now. So 2 separate questions there, James. I want a full answer to both.
Okay, let me take a second. I think really I've come to the epiphany that production value doesn't matter in the modern age. It really doesn't. I mean, you've only got to look at Netflix, where they put out, HBO's, the joke of the Game of Thrones last series, where you couldn't see anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, it was so dark that it was trying to be moody, but it just didn't work because you couldn't see anything, and so it kind of put people off. So I'm not sure production value matters anymore. I think it does come down to personality, and it comes down to how genuine you are when you speak, and can you hold a conversation? Because that's what it's becoming. I'm pretty certain that people aren't that interested in videos anymore. I think they're more interested in this kind of thing that we're doing right now, people nattering. And maybe it's because we're shuttered away in our homes a bit more, or maybe it's the older generation, the boomers, still have a lot of relevance in terms of making up a large part of the audience, and maybe they aren't going out as much. I don't know. And maybe they aren't watching the sort of 24-hour news cycle, which they're kind of accused of, I suppose.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, James. Yeah, this, from what a lot of news reports say at the moment, Generation Z is kind of leading the pushback against digital media. They're the ones that are really leading this digital detox, and there's a preference for long form content now. So it's almost kind of, we're hearing a lot about AI slop, but it's like, who's really consuming AI slop? And do people want more kind of authentic content and long form content?
Well, take you inside YouTube a bit more. The whole sort of halfway through last year, they changed the way that shorts are metriced, and how long it takes a short to count as a view, and so you can get loads and loads of views on shorts, or you can kind of get a generic 1,000 views from a short as soon as you post it almost, and so that's more attractive to sort of smaller YouTubers. And so they post a load of shorts, and then you neglect the long form, and that's where you kind of create your audience or curate an audience.
Yeah.
And with AI, only really capable of producing short form content at the minute, there's a big push to push shorts, I think, from YouTube. And so it's hard to say who's consuming it, because it's very disposable content. As soon as you watch something like a Sora 2 video, you think, oh, that's fun. I watched something today about it was just a post-punk channel, and it had some of my old favorite musicians there, Ian Curtis and stuff like that, and it brought them to life, and I thought, that's amazing. And then I immediately discarded it and forgot about it. So I'm not sure who really wants AI to take over these platforms, because I
hear there's a lot of money to be made from it. I'd love to know if you know how it's done, but so maybe we can get involved.
I'd love to.
But there was one channel in the Philippines that was making, I think it made a record of like $4 million just from one AI slot video. It was some like AI cat slot video with the robot voice talking, watch till the end and you will see what happens, and it just loops and loops. And to me, there's just kind of no value in that content. There's nothing to it, but there's the monetary value in it, and that seems to be kind of pushing a lot of producers to make this kind of content. I mean, you push back in your video that we talked about before against this kind of, they're playing with the algorithm, and you thought it's more important to make more authentic content.
Well, I think that's what I want to do, and I'm not chasing pounds or pennies from it just yet. I mean, I'd love to, but it's purely a busman's holiday type type of deal where I'm, this is my day job and I just do this because I just want to say something other than the nonsense that I have to say in my day to day.
Yeah.
And so it's more appealing to me to make that kind of stuff. But if I was chasing money, then yeah, I probably would be glued in on how to make money from that slop.
James, sorry, but you used the word pushback. Could I push back against your identification of Ian Curtis?
Yes, please.
Who I think is a poor person's Tiffany.
Do you?
Because I think We're Alone Now is a Sartrean classic that will stand the test of time.
I think you may be right.
Every time I hear it, something inside me dies.
It's true. Talking about Sartre and classics, Paul, maybe you can jump in here now. Just basically talking about your experience as a recovering academic of how this kind of like technological thinking and digital thinking kind of has invaded academia over the years.
Yeah, I got out. Basically, I was semi-retired for a long time. It's just that work didn't realise it. But one of the things one of the things that really cheesed me off was I was one of the last members of staff while I still could, because no one actually tested me. But I asked students to not have their laptops, just to close their laptops, and I insisted on it. And then I couldn't do that because people were coming in with notes saying they were neurodivergent. Despite the fact I've looked into this, I haven't seen any studies. They claimed because there are units in universities now devoted to helping, inverted commas, neurodivergent people. There is no evidence I'm aware of that says banging away on a laptop helps you make notes better than just using your hand and writing. And in fact, there was a Harvard scientist I read a while back who said, I always wanted, when I was studying, to have learned shorthand. And I always thought that would be incredibly useful. And he did this study and actually said, when you write shorthand, you're paying so much attention to getting every single word, which you're able to because you have the technology of shorthand. You don't actually, if you were tested on what you'd heard 6 months later from your shorthand notes, you wouldn't be able to explain it very well. But if you attend a lecture and make random notes with your own hand, with pen or pencil, the actual act of writing, I think Heidegger talks about this and other people, but the actual act of writing makes you remember because it's an organic process. It's your mind, it's somatic, it's your body. So this is a long-winded way of saying, when I've got a whole bank of laptops facing me, I can't engage with them. I can't see in their eyes whether they've understood the point because they're not looking at me properly. They could be browsing on the internet, which they invariably do. So I used to pride myself. I was a half-decent lecturer. I tried to get people engaged. And I used to, this was the other thing, just to finish on this, because of the technological push, there was a massive pressure to have detailed notes to all your lectures in advance. So A, the students stopped turning up at lectures for everyone. But B, they said they were incapable of taking notes. And this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you stop teaching people they need to take notes, guess what? They stop taking notes. But I don't know whether you remember, Stuart, I used to pride myself sometimes on giving a whole lecture. I'd have some slides, but I'd do a whole lecture for 2 hours and I'd use the first slide and never use any others.
Like the Proust reading group.
Yeah, and to do that,
and it works. Yeah, it works.
But to do that, you need a lot of you've got the safety net of the slides, but you've got a lot of background knowledge, and you extemporize over 2 hours. Now, I'm sure for a listener, that is a much better experience than someone reading out like a sports score announcer a load of bullet points. But the whole system now, because of the technology, because everyone's encouraged to use PowerPoint, you're encouraged to use slides, you're encouraged to use notes, you don't extemporize, you might as well just send them the lecture, the notes ahead of time and not bother. What's the point?
But that's what a lot of them did. I mean, kids just wouldn't turn up to lectures. They would find it boring. They would just go and download the notes, or they would go and summarize them. And we were there pre-AI. I mean, at the moment, university students, they just get the essay question, put it into AI. Maybe if they want to trick this system, they'll put their own couple of references in. You'll paraphrase this, and then the essay is written for themselves. And I think that there was definitely. Did you find, Paul, there was a push by this kind of like management culture? I guess emergent management culture in your time.
Oh, there was one, I won't name names, but there's one real, I mentioned earlier on about the apparatchik and the gulags, but in one of my, staff review performance.
Which is technical language in itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I had exams and an essay, and I was told it was a very limited range of assessment. And I said, well, should I introduce a potato painting competition? What do you want? They've had exams since time immemorial. And ironically, because of AI, they're going to have to go back to exams because, you know, unless you get a robot to do your exam for you. But the point from this apparatchik was that there needs to be a range of assessment for the sake of it, so that we can say we have a range of assessment. Never mind whether the assessment is fit for purpose. But, you know, an exam, it has many faults, but guess why they want to rule them out, or they did want to rule them out before AI came along? Because exams are discriminatory. Yeah, they test that people can memorize things and regurgitate them, which in some ways isn't everything, but it's something. It tests more than asking someone to put an essay through AI. And this is the point. Universities, because of the digital revolution, have become anti-discriminatory. And I see it linked to the whole woke agenda. These things feed into each other. You can't discriminate in terms of saying one person is brighter than another. And then you can't discriminate about anything, anytime, anywhere. And the two things, it is unholy alliance. I'm about to froth at the mouth, so I think you should take back over.
I was going to say, I'm sure money's got something to do with it as well. You know, like the reason why they don't want to do exams and anything that like that, particularly at the minute, it's because it costs money, and they're all trying to save money. So it's. I think what you're going to find is, Paul's, that rather than exams, it will probably go to assessments that are live, and you have to kind of read out a presentation and give a talk, because it's the only way that they can prove that you're actually doing some kind of work that AI isn't doing for you, or that the AI will probably write the PowerPoint or whatever. So maybe it's that. And then obviously, as an assessment, it would be where you ask someone a question that they don't, is loosely associated to what they're going on about, and hope that they can answer that question, and that would be your pass-fail. I don't know.
Absolutely. It's always paradoxical that the universities have been pushing for more technological integration into the learning experience, and now they've got to this stage where they have AI causing a big problem for assessment, and universities now saying, oh no, hold on, like we need to go back to pen and paper exams, we need to go back to timed assessment and things like that.
Yeah, but don't you think it's hilarious that universities supposedly full of very intelligent people are so thick they don't realize their unique selling point is in-person teaching and having a campus. So what do? Do everything within their power to make in-person teaching unfriendly and ineffective, and then wonder why they've shot the goose that laid the golden egg, to mix metaphors wildly.
I just want to jump in there, Paul, because obviously I'm living in Spain at the moment, and the university experience here is, public universities at least, is very different to the UK. I mean, here you're supposed to be in like 9 till 5 Monday to Friday.
But you have a 6-hour nap in the afternoon.
No, you have lectures.
So just in the summer.
It's too hot. You have lectures the whole day, and in a lot of universities they ban laptops, so you have to take notes. So they have this kind of very rigorous. Not in private universities. Private universities is like a degree mill. You pay your money, you get your degree. Most politicians here have degrees from private universities. But if you want to be a doctor or a scientist or accountant, economist, you have to go to a public university. And it's very, very rigorous. I mean, the degrees are 5 years for an undergraduate degree. I don't know what your experience is like, James, but my experience as an undergraduate was, 4 hours a week, 6 hours a week maximum contact time. And it was like, there you go, there's the reading list. And I know a lot of people who still manage to get, 2 2s, 2 1s, who would read 3 or 4 books on the reading list a couple of nights before an essay was due, write an essay, 2,000-word essay, and still get the degree in it. And it's kind of that lack of rigor and lack of contact time even back then, in 2003, 2004-ish.
Yeah, I mean, my university experience is a lot different because I kind of split my degree over 2, and so when I got my media arts degree, it was pointless. But it was all because I was already in TV, so I was kind of doing it and kind of was not looking down on my lecturers, but kind of in the trenches, shall we say? And maybe they weren't or hadn't been. So I kind of carried. I think my experience carried more weight than what I was being taught.
That's interesting.
That goes to the whole point about technical degrees, which I'm totally against. The irony is you should only go to university to study the absolutely most pointless, useless, and everything else should be a technical college. And I don't mean that in a dismissive way.
No, I completely agree.
Technical colleges should be absolutely rigorous, and you teach people practical skills. But it's the distinction between if your child came home from school and said we had sex ed, you'd go, "Oh, that's fine." But if they said we've had sex training, you'd be absolutely mortified. Although it's probably going to happen. And this is the distinction. Training and education are two profoundly different things.
Yeah.
And education often doesn't have a particular use. But I think to get this back to the digital issue. Digital technology always wants surveillance. Digital technology always wants some measurable. And the point about, for example, I can imagine not just teaching, but if you're a good doctor who takes time to listen to patients, which in the long run could save time, when you're filling in your digital patient forms, if you don't keep up a certain pace, you'll get told off. So to me, the whole digital revolution is just the icing on the cake of deprofessionalization. All the major professions I can think of have been deprofessionalized. And with AI coming down the road, imagine being a solicitor or a lawyer. You really don't need them as much as you know, which maybe is a good thing.
But I mean, especially in the digital space with moving image and photography, what it did is it made absolute idiots that didn't take school very seriously, like me, be able to get into industries that we probably had no business being in. It meant that you didn't have to master light and understand how it worked, although I think I'm kind of getting there. But, not to pat myself too heavily on the back, of course, because there's a lot I don't know, and that's where I suppose AI will make up for in future generations. But what it did when you basically got rid of the cutting room floor for film in particular, was that you meant anyone could do this. And so that opened the door to, obviously less gatekeeping meant that they could open the door to anyone that would come along and act in any way that they were told or instructed to, or, the Long March for the Institutes, rings a bell, and that's probably where Hollywood is at the minute.
It's interesting you mentioned that, James. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it kind of links into this idea of the democratization of technology. Digital technology is going to democratize production, is what we were told in the early 2000s. And it happened with journalism. We had like citizen journalism. It was a big trend for a long time.
Which, there's been a lot of need for that, so it's a mixed bag, isn't it? Because it's like, if you don't have those people out on the streets in, a time like COVID, that I'm sure there was a lot of misinformation, as they like to say, and disinformation, sure. But without that, you would not have that sort of ear to the ground, figuring out, where, what public opinion actually really is, and do we have voices out there that are similar to what, we're thinking, and people like Paul and yourself, Stuart, we wouldn't hear from you. We wouldn't hear your dissenting voices.
I'm confused now what point you're making, James. I would much prefer to live in a world where nobody got to hear from Stuart.
well, I quite like Stuart's voice.
Thank you, James. Yeah,
wasn't even talking about his voice, more his ideas.
Fair enough.
Crazy ideas. Let's bring in some of my crazy ideas then. Right. Is technology neutral?
No.
Is it neutral? So we've got hands up for no. Paul, put your hand up.
I'd like to understand what you mean by neutral. You got to speak in layman's terms with me, mate.
So we've got to speak in it. So there's this idea.
Treat me as the grunt on the street. That's working class, mate.
working class digital citizen. In philosophy, and this is, we have two traditions, kind of the continental tradition and the analytic tradition. And continental tradition is, I would argue, it starts with Nietzsche, Husserl, Heidegger, and goes on to like Sartre. It goes on to Albert Borgman, goes on to Derrida, Deleuze, these kind of poncy sounding, difficult to read French, German philosophers. And the analytic tradition, within analytic tradition, would look at technology as fairly neutral. It's how you use it. So how you use a computer is totally neutral. If I want to use the computer to make AI deep fakes of people and post them online for ransom, that would be from a societal perspective is not nice. But I could go on the internet and use the computer to hack into, I don't know, like WikiLeaks, hack into the government computers and discover corruption. So it's basically on me to decide how technology is used. Whereas in the continental tradition, especially going back to Martin Heidegger, German philosopher, is the one that really kind of started this all. He argues that we need to look at technology beyond instrumental means, beyond mere devices, and more the essence of technology. It's like technology takes on an essence in terms of how we look at the world. The world is revealed to us through technology, how it's used. So it can't necessarily be neutral. And this idea actually goes all back to ancient Greek philosophy in Plato. Paul, was it the Phaedrus, the Platonic dialect, the Phaedrus? And for Plato, it was actually Socrates in the dialectic. He saw techne, or what the Greeks understood as techne, as being like a pharmacon. So it's like a medicine. It's the poison and the cure at the same time, and at the same time, it's also a scapegoat. So Paul, you probably know this one better than me.
Well,
what's the story?
But I'd give a quicker, shorter definition. The contrast for me would be the banana-rama theory of technology. So, James, you like your music. It's not what you've got, it's the way that you use it, and that's what gets results. You can try hard. That's the belief that technology is neutral. It's how you choose to use it. And the other simple example would be, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I think that's what Stuart's talking about when he talks about the essence of a technology. Once you've got a bloody big hammer in your hand, everything looks hammerable. And so in that sense, technology is not neutral at all. Marshall McLuhan, I think he refers to it as an apple pie is intrinsically good. Smallpox is intrinsically bad. These things don't tend to have other uses. A gun, Kelsapri's. When people say, people don't kill people, sorry, guns don't kill people, people do. I once saw a French philosopher, Bruno Latour, who came to Edinburgh, and he was absolutely brilliant because he was in a menage a trois at the time, and this caused a big scandal. And he was like, pourquoi non? And all these, Presbyterian Scottish academics were absolutely scandalised. But someone said to him, guns don't kill people. What was it? Guns don't kill people, people do. And he
rappers do.
Yeah, he
was
went
going to
like
say
that.
rappers do. Yeah.
He went bang, bang. But why are you not dead? Just completely deflating this stupid argument. Of course, guns kill people, and that's all guns do very effectively. You don't write a sonnet with a bloody gun.
No.
Yeah.
So this idea ironically, I spent the whole first year at least of my PhD studying. It was called the sociology of technology and the social construction of technology, which is all these academics trying to argue that technology is socially shaped, which it is. Of course it is. But they were totally against, almost ideologically against the idea that technology has inherent values. And get this back to digitality, that the inherent property of digital technology is that it needs to measure everything all the time. And that has deleterious consequences, because someone as, anti-algorithm as me and you and people who say, I don't care about the numbers, you release a video and you're slavering over the figures. Despite the fact, it's all nonsense and you know whether you've done a good video or not. But the minute you create figures, they become addictive. And that's it. It's the figures, it's the mathematics, it's the technology. All of these things combine in this technological ensemble. I'll give you one very quick last example and then back to Stuart. Universities in the UK, for those not in the UK, they have a league table of universities. So they have not arbitrary, but they have certain measurements that you perform to that then determines whether you're a good university. And one of those measurements to get right high up in the league table was how many first-class degrees do you award? Well, in the good old days when I studied at undergrad, there was 5 to 10% of any student body ever got a first, and sometimes less. So sometimes in a whole year, no one would get a first, the final degrees. And then, guess what? If you actually get rewarded by a league table for giving out firsts, nowadays, the average, I think it's around about 30% of all students get a first.
Yeah.
And that's directly because of the league table. So the league table, if you think of it as a technology, creates a disproportionate outcome, which makes it non-neutral.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, just to add to that, Paul, as well. I mean, one of the essential things about digital technology is it speeds things up. it looks to make things more efficient and faster. And what's actually happened is that way of looking at things in terms of efficiency has actually kind of bled into us organically as our kind of physical bodies. We now look to optimize ourselves. I mean, if you look at social media trends now, we have this like looks maxing. You have obsessions with like biohacking. You take this vitamin, you'll be able to work faster. You have hustle culture at work now. It's like you need to work faster, you need to work stronger, you need to be more efficient, you need to plan yourself, you need to fit more into the day. So as a kind of a byproduct of the fact that digital technology speeds things up and makes things more efficient, we ourselves as human beings, as individuals, are now basically optimizing ourselves for that technology. So we can never say technology is neutral when the technology itself or the technological way of thinking is actually changing the way we act. And a lot of the times it's changing the way we act, we don't even know ourselves that it's changing us. It just kind of happens. It takes academics, it takes commentators to kind of pick these things apart.
Are you convinced, James?
Yeah, pretty much convinced. Yeah.
So we've actually convinced James. Yeah, we'll give you a reading list later.
Yeah.
Just want to very quickly just show you some data. Probably might be a little bit too small, but this is Google Trends search terms for digital burnout. So this goes back all the way to 2004. From 2004, there's barely any searches for this term, digital burnout. But in 2024, I think it is, suddenly you get this massive upsurge in people searching for digital burnout. Digital detox, similar thing as well. I mean, I think this jump here is around COVID during the lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Where probably people getting burnt out, but you can see here in 2025, more and more people are searching for this term, digital detox. So I want to kind of put the question to you two guys now is like, what is digital detox? What do you think digital detox should be? And what form should we take? I mean, do we need a digital detox? Can we digital detox?
Well, the only thing that I can really speak to is, and it'll come from a digital platform, is my Instagram feed, which I'm not a big Instagrammer, is absolutely filled with people claiming that they desperately want physical media. This is the year of physical media. I suppose there's a backlash to AI. And so I think the problem is that the digital space is 24/7, and you can kind of feel like you get left out if you're not glued to your smartphone or your TV or however you watch, that sort of digital media. And so digital detox, it's difficult because as we move into, AI powered government and stuff like that, and tax is digital and everything is digital, I'm not sure that is strictly possible without literally lopping it off and going, I'm just not going to get involved in the modern world.
James, that's an incredibly serious point, because I've never owned a mobile phone, but I've had to use my wife's mobile number for an inordinate, but also because I am a complete raging hypocrite. I love ordering things online, so I have to use
very
my wife's...
convenient.
Well, yeah, and I like I can get books from all over the world at the next day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the fact that some poor underpaid person is, burrowing away like a medieval hobbit for my reading pleasure doesn't bother me in the slightest. Shame on me. But the point is that this idea that I need somebody else's mobile phone, that's just one daft example, but there are so many things online you need a mobile number for.
It's everything now, yeah.
And in terms of citizenship, that's disgraceful that you're basically forced into the digital gulag. So I have a wife who has a phone that I can then piggyback off. But if you're not in that situation, you're forced to have a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. James, you actually said something quite interesting just before about this ramp up of AI. Governments are ramping up AI now. All we're hearing is like, everything's going to be digitized. Tax is going to be digitized. Driving tests are going to be digitized. Asylum claims are going to be digitized. We've signed this deal. Keir Starmer, his cabinet have signed deals with, I think it's OpenAI or one of the other AI companies, I think, for some sort of like data processing. And this is not something like politically, I don't think anyone's really voted for. And it's kind of like it's like a brave new world in that sense, that governments seem to be wanting to accelerate this technological. They see it as basically a panacea to fix every societal ill. But at the same time, a lot of people are really pushing back and saying, have we gone too far with technology, especially Gen Z? Like you say, they're getting really into physical media again. People are cancelling their streaming services. And people are buying dumb phones. In fact, I think actually, let me bring this back up. I think we have a search term for dumb phone as well. Yeah. So starting in about 2021, more and more people start searching. And what people don't know is that for younger audience, dumb phone is basically one of the old school Nokias. You can make phone calls, you can send text messages, and you can play Snake on it, and that's it. Nothing else. No scrolling, no social media, anything like that. And more people are buying these phones deliberately, as a deliberate choice to get away from digital. Whereas at the same time, our governments are pushing more and more for our lives to be more digital, which I kind of see that as a disconnection between cities and the state.
Well, can I ask you two a question, because it just intrigues me, and it's quite a funny example, because I'm getting on and I want to be a bit healthier. I wanted to reduce my alcohol intake, so I used to drink a lot of red wine, and ironically, red wine's supposed to be better for you. But because red wine is so quaffable, and if you're halfway down a bottle, there's a huge temptation just to finish it.
Yeah, and then so it's not good.
Yeah, so I switched onto connoisseur beer, so Belgian beer and really good quality beer. And if nothing else, you have to go into the kitchen to get another bottle.
Yeah.
And likewise, in technological digital terms, what I've done is I have an iPad that I use quite a lot, but because it's, physically the size of an iPad, and I have like a child's cover for it, like a toddler's. So it's basically, I can drop it anywhere. Yeah. But because it's so bulky, you don't take it everywhere, because you'd look like a mentally subnormal 5-year-old. So you don't do that. So therefore, what I'm suggesting is there are very practical ways to limit your usage, whether it's beer with its alcohol or whether it's digital being online. There are practical steps you can take that no one ever... I'm not trying to big myself up, but if I can see these steps and these methods, why don't more people?
Why don't more people do it?
Why don't more people drink Belgian beer? I think it's ultimately my question.
I fell out of beer. Fell out of love with beer a long time ago. I'm strictly a Ponzi gin man myself. But no, I think it's a different kind of addiction, because it doesn't feel like it's damaging. That's the problem. It doesn't feel like you're damaging yourself until you do hit that burnout point where it's just like, my brain hurts. Like my brain feels like it's weighed down physically, which is, I've had that feeling. But then obviously my job, and then obviously coming home and watching YouTube or whatever, like I'm constantly staring at screens. So I probably feel that more than most, because I'm bloody sick of the sight of them. After I finish my working day, and then for some reason I stupidly go home and continue to watch them.
Well, James, can I ask you, this is where I'll put you on the spot for being a deviant and enjoying video games. Could you now spend the next 5 minutes defending yourself from this accusation of deviancy? What on earth? Why would you like playing video games?
I fell in love with video games when I was very young, because I found it to be an incredibly compelling storytelling medium. So I have played like multiplayer games and stuff, and I've got a couple of mates that I'm playing with at the minute. But those games, they aren't the sort of beat 'em up style games or shoot 'em up games, the FPS games and things like that. Although we do play them, but not to the extent that I certainly did when I was younger. But I fell in love with a genre of games. My first kind of game that I fell in love with is called point and click. So all you do is you have a mouse and
Monkey Island and things like that.
Exactly, Monkey Island,
LucasArts.
Yeah, LucasArts. Yeah. So those kind of games, it felt like what games tried to become in the sort of early 2000s, which is basically immersive cinema. And it can be a very strong learning tool. It can be a very strong, not necessarily, Hollywood suffers with historical inaccuracy and video games are no different in that front, but they could be great ways to get kids interested in, compelling events throughout history. War is obviously, the most obvious, but anything, you look at sort of Grand Theft Auto, there's a reason why people want to go and, do all those kind of crazy crime-based activities just as much as they want to sit and watch true crime.
Escapism, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not, for me, it's not so much escapism in terms of like, I want to live an alter ego. I want to do something, that's not in my nature to do or whatever. It's just, I like playing video games, Paul.
Yeah, but that's defense by tautology, which I don't accept.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but Paul, this links into what we were talking about previously. I think in one of the Proust sessions, the difference between cinema and a book and a video game is, with cinema it's passive. You see everything that the director wants you to see. With a book, you're reading an account, but your mind is creatively filling in the blanks. And for me, video games, computer games, are kind of in the middle, in a sense, that you're seeing what the director or the game's development team want you to see, but at the same time you're actually kind of actively participating in events, and events unfurl based on your own actions, if that makes sense.
Within a confined range of possibilities. Exactly,
within a confined range of possibilities. So it's more limiting than a book, but it's not as limiting as cinema, for example, or radio.
Right, but this again, I'm sorry for being so thick. The Korean guy, can you tell me his name again?
Han Byung-chul.
The Han is at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, so in Korean, Han would be first, because that's the surname.
Right.
So it's Byung-chul Han.
Right, so Byung-chul Han, I've written that down now, so I apologise for my terrible obtuse racism. But he has this interesting point, because you were talking about burnout. In the Burnout Society, which I'm now going to talk about like I'm an expert, when I read it about 2 hours ago.
It's only 10 pages long.
It's only about 55 pages. So yeah, I read it 2 hours ago. So ironically, it's incredibly fresh in my senile head.
Yeah.
But his book, for those who don't know, it's called The Burnout Society. And what interested me was, he says the main fault with a lot of mental pressure these days is that we live in an overly positive environment. We live in an overly stimulated environment. And in past times, there was, and this is something that Philip Reef talked about before this guy. He talked about the society of interdiction. Thou shalt not, thou can't, thou shouldn't, all these forbidden things. And in our society, it's the North American, yay, you can, yeah, you go get him. I'll give you a daft example. Have you ever seen Beard Meets Food?
Yeah, no. the guy who eats
it's this guy from Leeds, and he's got a massive long beard, and he's buff, and he does food challenges.
Yeah, hoovers
and
it up.
It's a fascinating cultural difference. When he goes to America, the episodes are so much better, because everyone in the restaurant, or I call them restaurants, piggery. Everyone in that feeding place are like, you go get him, boy, and they're all up for it. Whereas here, you get snarky old men like me saying, you'll never do it.
Yeah, hope you
and they're really talking down at him. But anyway, this thing about too much positivity, the irony is, if you live in a society of you can, there's an implicit you should be able to.
Yeah.
So if for whatever reason you can't do something, but you think you should be able to do it, you then have guilt. You have a lack of a sense of achievement. So he calls it the Achievement Society. And when I did a previous video on Samuel Beckett, I've always had this weird thing. He's behind me all the time. He's my good luck charm. It might be the Irish in me. I could get an Irish passport. My grandparents were Irish. And I do think there's this Irish thing about, you find not outright humour, but there's a wry humour about death and darkness. And there's an absurdity about life that is baked into the culture. After 15 pints of Guinness, you tend to get morose. But in terms of this Han Byung-chul, his idea, I think I pronounced that brilliantly.
Han Byung-chul.
His notion, I think you can add on to here. I'm adding to it, so forgive me if it's my interpretation is bogus. But it's a call for more darkness in a way.
It is, yeah. No,
Samuel
he does
Beckett
that, yeah.
provides darkness, and I think it sounds completely counterintuitive.
Mm.
But if there were more kids forced to read Waiting for Godot and stuff, if you're actually exposed to dark, miserable things in an artistic form, I don't think there's as much psychological pressure. You mentioned, James, Instagram pictures. There's this constant FOMO pressure. Oh, look, they're on the Costa Brava having a whale of a time. I'm in Rill and I'm depressed. Whereas if you read about people being depressed in Rill, that cheers me up.
Yeah.
And there's a large element of literature I can think of that Thomas Bernard and people like Beckett and Joyce and all these people, there's a darkness.
Bluebeard.
Once you let yourself, fairy tales are incredibly
Yeah.
dark for children.
Yeah.
And embrace if there's one message from this video from me, it would be embrace the darkness. It would be that actually darkness can come to the dark side. It's without sounding more satanic than I normally do. There is a psychological there's a psychological catharsis in a relief in not having this constant pressure to be happy. And it's why I think I have seasonal affective disorder the other way round. I hate summer. And the most miserable I've been in my life has been on summer holidays in exotic places where everyone's in swimming costumes, bouncing around, drinking tequila. And I physically feel horrible because there's this pressure to be happy. And I know that type of superficial happiness never lasts.
Yeah.
Whereas good aesthetic forms of misery can last you a lifetime.
Yeah. No, Paul, you're totally right. This is Han Byung-chul. He says that in one of his books, the Transparency Society, the Transparent Society. I can't remember which one it is. He does say that digital society has become transparent to the point it's neither light nor dark. It's just everything is visible. There's this constant positivity. And if you go back to traditional art, he's really big, just like you, pushing traditional text, art, and and anything that has more depth to it and more authenticity. And he does say that you need the light and dark spaces. You need that balance of light and dark, because if everything's just fully open, kind of so bright to the point that you don't even need light to see it, it's so transparent, it reduces everything down to kind of a single point.
From a very specific, practical, technical point of view, I'd be interested in your view on this, James. I've been reading, there's a philosopher wrote a book, you'll laugh, but it's about shade and shadows in painting. And I began to think about this, and I think I've had this long-going joke with Stuart that I detest anime. I've really tried, because I've told, there's some really arty anime. And I've tried to watch the arty anime. And to me, it's flat. And I began to think about this, and no matter how good the art is in digital productions, there's a lack of shadow, there's a lack of darkness. And the more I think about it, some of the greatest artists, they use shade and shadow in a productive way. But we've taken that out of our society in literal and metaphorical ways. And guess what? People aren't happier, they're more miserable.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big, to use the word again, there's a big, not kind of pushback, but something that those of us that work with sort of modern day cameras, there's a big thing that people say it's too realistic. Like the kind of shots that you get are so true to life, or not necessarily true to life, but like a hyper representation of real life that back in the day with film, it used to give you the lovely grades and lovely bits of film noise and stuff. And when you watch an old film, you can see it just looks more genuine. There's something about it. It's like listening to vinyl. People waffle nonsense about how music sounds better on vinyl, and it probably does. But apparently loads of kids buy vinyl these days. But
it's the same with audio design as well, isn't it, James? That it's not just like every image now in modern cinematography is flat. It's also the sound design. Everything is compressed, everything is normalized, so you don't have those quiet periods, you don't have those loud periods anymore. It's just everything is flat and designed to be very easy to hear while you're scrolling through your phone while the film's playing on Netflix. I
mean, it's also a death of timbre, like you don't get the sound of the wood anymore, that kind of thing. It's all digital,
clean sound,
and all digital, artificial.
Well, can I give you because I like to give sad examples, but and this is simultaneously sad and makes me look like the most pretentious. moi. I'm pretentious at the best of times, but this is beyond pretentious. I got really into shogi, which is Japanese chess.
Right.
And I got an ex-student. I paid him a fortune. He sent me from Kyoto they're huge, big square go bands. They're called big square pieces of wood, and the more expensive ones are cut towards the middle of the tree because the grain of the wood is nicer. Mm-hmm. If you cut towards the outer part of the tree, it's cheaper. Mm-hmm. Because if you cut in the middle, you can only have one board. Mm-hmm. So I got this really expensive, ridiculously expensive, and then they've got these little wooden pieces that have like lozenge shaped, and there's a particular way to hold them between your fingers when you put them down on the board. And it's very hard to explain, but when you play a game of shogi on a good board, there's there's connoisseurs of shogi sound. It makes this, and the boards are designed, they have a little diamond cut out on the bottom to help the sound reverberate. Mm-hmm. And it's typically Japanese. It's the sound of a tree that could be 500 years old. It's the beautifully polished wood of these pieces, and it's the method of placing them down. Mm-hmm. And I have seen some anime where they're playing shogi, and the sound it makes, they're trying to approximate. And if you've heard the real sound, it's a horrible, heartless, absent sound, the digital reproduction. It really is. And to me, that just embodies, I appreciate not everyone. It's my dream, actually, to go to Tokyo, to one of these shogi bars with just loads of old men, and I wouldn't have to speak Japanese. I could just grunt and play shogi all day. But there is this difference between the embodied, at every stage. And the other thing about the shogi is its rules are based, they've been influenced by the shogunate, the samurai. So when you capture a piece of your opponent, you put it on a little table and you can reintroduce it on your side later on. And that comes from the, what do they call them, Stuart? The roving Ronin.
Ronin, yeah.
Ronin.
Yeah, the mercenaries, basically. So history informs the game. The physicality of the wood informs the game. There's a whole embodied culture of hundreds of years, and all of these things. Stuart before talked about the way in which digitality is about speed, it's about now. All of the things I'm talking about, which I'm sure make me sound some deranged Japanese traditionalist.
No, Paul, that's a great example for Heidegger's fourfold, isn't it? You've got the earth, sky, gods, and mortals, in a sense that piece of technology, the shogi board, is imbued with the earth. It's a physical thing. It's something that is connected to nature. It's the sky is basically represents the culture side of things. So it's linked to the Japanese culture going back hundreds of, if not nearly 1,000 years. And then it's also linked to their religion as well, like Shinto religion, Bushido code, things like that. So it's imbued, but when you look at a digital device, an app, it has this kind of throwaway quality to it. It doesn't have that connection with a culture, with a society. It's all flattened. It's all kind of universal. It's all multicultural to that extent.
Yeah. No, I can get that, because you've only got to listen to modern music to see that it's just wallpaper.
Terrible.
Just wallpaper.
You leave Tiffany out of this.
Well,
that's not modern music, though, is it? That's classic music.
That is a classic. Do you know this is a true story? Sorry to lighten the mood.
Yeah.
But I was at Penn State. I did like a month visiting scholarship as an academic, and it's a weird town. It's like a one-horse town, and there's loads of people when the university's there, but they are basically the town. But I've very rarely, and it's hilarious because I basically cause fights and then leave pubs. Stuart's witnessed this. But I've very rarely...
Argumentative fights.
Yeah, no, but I've always had this weird ability to leave the pub just as chairs start coming through the windows. And so I've very rarely ever been in danger of a physical fight. But me and this guy almost knocked 9 bells out of each other because we were very, very drunk. And Tiffany came on, and I said, "This is the best song of the last 30 years." And he, even more drunk than me, said, "No, Kylie's better than Tiffany." And we had these students looking on. He was like quite a senior academic, and there's me fighting over Kylie versus Tiffany. It was one of the most bizarre and potentially dangerous situations I've been in. But anyway, I slightly digress.
Yeah, indeed.
No, good digression. What do we do about this digital problem now? What's the solution? I mean, is there a solution? what form should the digital detox take?
I think that's kind of a revolution of the mind type thing. It's kind of like every kind of situation that I think we've found ourselves, particularly in Great Britain at the minute. It's not necessarily something that's going to be governmental or top down at all. I think it has to come from within, personally, because it's so easy to just give in to the vices that it can open doors to. It's difficult to put it down, and it's designed to be difficult to put it down. So it's got to come from within, if you ask me. Which is why I'm like trying not to worry about numbers and things like that when I produce content at the minute.
But James, are you stymied by the fact that you grew up in this environment, and more than that, you're professionally trained in this environment? Well, so, for example, someone in the comments said, but without, they agree with some of the things I was saying, but without this platform, i.e. YouTube, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. But then there's an irony. My defense to that would be most of my channel is about telling people to stop watching YouTube and go to the library.
Yeah.
And some people occasionally say I've been down the library, and that just fills me with joy. So to be fair to me, if I got my numbers even lower and no one ever watched me, but they all went to the library, my work would be done.
That's a success, yeah.
True.
But in your situation, because you're not as anti it as me, my reading of your situation is you've got professional skills in the area, so it's almost like it's the air that you breathe, and you've grown up with it in a way that I've actually witnessed the advent of a lot of these things, and I suspected them from the beginning, and therefore didn't dive in with both feet. Whereas you and Stuart didn't really get that choice.
No, I think I'm nearly 40, so I've kind of grown up with playing VHS tapes. I remember, to bring it back to video games, Commodore and all that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah,
so
I had the C64, yeah. Oh, good times. On tape, games
exactly.
on tape, 20 minutes to load the game.
That's it, ZX Spectrum and all that, brilliant. But it's
but it's interesting. We look back at it fondly, don't we? I mean, that kind of brings into the thing, what's too much tech? Why do we look at some tech as being like happy memories and complain about new stuff?
Well, I think it's strange, wasn't it? Because I read something the other day that was saying that the sort of rich poor divide at the minute. If you're a poor parent, you're happy for your kids to be glued to a screen, which I'm not sure is true. And then if you're a rich parent, you're really limiting screen time. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly in our own experience, my experience of being a parent, I do. We watch TV with the kid, and we let him watch new stuff. Yeah. But if it's not like a cartoon that's hand drawn, I've got a real problem with it. Because I just feel like there's nothing magical about Spidey, but there's something great about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it's difficult.
Batman the animated series.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah.
James, Stuart is one of these unreconstructed mammals. Middle-aged man in lycra. He goes off mountain biking, mounting him. But what do you do that's hopefully not as horrific as that? But what do you do that's not digitally based for relief?
Well, I'm lucky. I live near Dartmoor, so I'm always up there as much as possible. I love that landscape, and it's the only reason that I've stayed in the southwest, to be honest, which has probably been anti-career.
Sorry to interrupt, James. Are you linked to that recent report about a man fiddling with deers?
I'm not saying anything.
Okay. Oh, sorry, it's the court case.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Don't prejudice the court case.
Sub judice.
That's it. But no, I think I used to do a lot more that I don't now, and I think because of COVID, I think I got used to being locked in my house and just being glued to my bloody phone or my bloody TV, and I find myself, trying to always get back into reading more and stuff like that, but I just simply don't have the time, and it's the world's worst excuse, because I know that when I read and when I do things that aren't digital, I feel better about myself because I'm reconnecting with youth, but I'm also reconnecting with humanity. And that's a big thing of what my last video was about, was like, we need to do things that are more human. Yeah. And I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that. And it seems to be whenever I go to like a friend's house or I do anything with friends, it seems to be something digital related, whether I go and watch boxing or I go and play video games. It's always around a digital device. I think it's a symptom of age as well. I think I don't go to the pub as much as I used to, not just because it's so expensive. I have to remortgage. Well, I don't even have a mortgage, so if I had a mortgage, I could at least remortgage it to go and get a pint. But it's it's difficult. It's digital media is in every walk of life, and it's not even like you can walk outside and get away from it because there's digital billboards and stuff like that. It's literally in every aspect of every walk of life.
Sorry, James, but you just reminded me. One of the times I knew our goose was cooked. I'm obsessed with geese at the moment. I've mentioned before because it was a weird experience being in Venice, but I stayed in Venice for a month with an Italian girl. But when we first arrived in Venice, she had, it might have been the early 90s, I'm guessing, or mid 90s. And she had a mobile phone, which by that, weren't smartphones. And I remember her phone pinged and I said, "What's that?" And she said there was an advert about, a building we'd just passed. It was giving her details about the building, or, it was encouraging her to go to somewhere. And I thought, I didn't like Venice during the daytime anyway, because it was a horrible tourist trap. But now you can't even just stroll randomly. You're being fed this digital teat, spouting out digital, curdling milk.
Yeah.
I don't know where this is going.
Goose milk.
Italian girls and milk. Where are we going? But no, to follow up on that, like I just had a builder round, and
that's not a euphemism.
No, not in this case.
No, not plumber.
He did a bit of plumbing as well, but that's a different story. But it was more the fact that I keep getting adverts for like Screwfix. I'm never going to go to Screwfix, like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's interesting. Yeah, someone's got your details.
Well, I'm probably, he probably was on my Wi-Fi or whatever, or the 4G or 5G tower thought I was him or he was me, and all of a sudden I'm getting ads for fucking tools and things like that.
Well, just James, just be grateful Stuart wasn't at your house.
Well,
come to the Gimp Emporium
again
with my lycra. But yeah, I mean, getting onto the lycra. I started mountain biking in 2013. I mean, I had a bike that I used to ride to uni, but then my friend was really into mountain biking, and he just said, "Oh, you should get a mountain bike, come on mountain biking." And it really is like my therapy, just to be able to get outside. It's like an excuse to get outside, but it's not just the actual being out in nature riding the bike. It's actually like a physical hobby as well. So instead of sitting with the phone, you can fix the bike, you can swap components over, you can tweak things, you can repair stuff. So a lot of people will get into cycling, mountain biking, and if something breaks on the bike, they just take it to the bike shop. But my grandfather was really into fixing his old cars and doing things in the garage when I was really, really young. So he kind of instilled this idea. He was like the kind of the World War II generation. They would save everything, they would repair everything, and he really got me into kind of DIY and fixing stuff. So to be able to just put my phone away and just spend a couple of hours, like repairing the suspension or tweaking the bike, getting it all kind of set up properly, it's just so nice. And just to be away from any sort of technology apart from hand tools and screwdrivers and hammers and stuff like that, and just do that, and then be able to get out into nature and have zero technology as well. Like I have a dumb phone that I take out on bike rides. So if I fall off and die, I can call the wife. Can you come pick me up? But I don't take my smartphone out with me. So I'm not. I don't have any temptation to stop and check apps, check WhatsApp, and all this. I can just get out, and it's just such a feeling of clarity. And mountain biking is one way of doing it. You can do it through hiking. If you have Paul's got 2 dogs, you can just get outside with the dogs. Just any excuse to get away from technology has an instant calming effect. And that does make me think, well, okay, if these 1 hour, 2 hours when I'm away from technology is doing this to me, what would an even deeper digital detox be, if I completely withdrew from it?
But also, Stuart, as you're speaking, I think there's a distinction between it's not just technology. I think the problem is digital technology is exponentially worse.
Yeah,
because when you're repairing the mountain bike, you're engaging with a technological artifact.
Yeah,
but you're empowered by the fact you can repair it.
Yeah.
But there's a whole generation of men who are disempowered because when their fathers and their fathers' fathers would have repaired cars, now you could be the best mechanic in the world, but when you open the bonnet, there's all this bloody
sealed
electronic circuitry.
Yeah, it's black boxed. Yeah, and you can't see
it's not. Yeah, it's not mechanically repairable. So
and it's deliberately done that way. Yeah.
I agree.
No, that is the danger. That is the danger. Now.
I disagree with your agreement.
Just trying to fill the silence.
So what can we do then? Just some kind of practical steps if someone wants to digital detox. I mean, what would this look like? I mean, for you, James, it would be extremely hard, I guess, to completely withdraw from digital technology when your livelihood's based on it, when you have to use it every day at work. I mean, Paul, being the hermit he is, he can do that. Unless he needs new reading material and then he has to log on, or unless he does one of these videos, Paul, you can have a fairly digital free life, can't you?
Well, I don't see. I'm like almost undermining my own argument, but I don't want to like big myself up. It's just that I've chosen deliberately how I use the technology, but what I witness around me is very few people do.
Yeah.
So I use an iPad all the time because, for example, there's no point trying to read a physical newspaper.
Yeah.
Because it's out of date the minute it's printed. So for very certain things, it's incredibly reasonable to want to use digital technology. I don't have a problem with that. I think to be vaguely positive, which doesn't come easy to me. I think you slagged off Netflix before, but I think we're in a golden age of TV. With various streaming services, Breaking Bad and programs like that were exceptionally good compared to what I used to see decades ago. So, and they're all on digital streaming services. So there are elements that if you dip in and out, the fact that, like I said, I can order books. I've tracked books down from the other side of the world and had them in my house a week later. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, this was not possible.
Yeah.
I'm getting books tomorrow that I ordered about an hour ago, and they're going to arrive tomorrow, and I live in a rural area. Yeah. So these things, I'm in an incredibly privileged position where I can choose how I dip in and out of digital technology.
Yeah.
But the way you mentioned children before, I remember being in a restaurant with my sister, and there was a little kid. We had a really pleasant lunch because we normally fight after about 5 minutes, and we hadn't. We'd had a really nice lunch. And then this family sat next to us just as luckily we were finishing anyway. But their little child was given a device that just kept playing a game that was beeping. And it really was like, it's an intrusive sound. And we could have said, well, you get your little snot goblin to stop playing that. But I didn't want to ruin, the fact we'd had a nice lunch. And they obviously wanted to babysit the child by giving her the device so she wouldn't bother them. But then I thought, even when it was dysfunctional, when I was a child being an adult company, being told to shut up and sit there and be still, and the minute you moaned, you got hit round the head. None of these things affected me negatively. No. And there is a point that learning to be bored, learning to be respectful around older people, learning to shut up, and it's not your God-given right, ironically, because I'm speaking now, it's not your God-given right to witter on. These are all important lessons that are being lost because of the digital babysitter.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder, maybe those parents were also worried about the social stigma of having a screaming child, because I don't feel it, but I know that, being a parent and taking a child to a restaurant can be challenging for some. With our one, he's fine because he's like me, he just eats. He loves food, so he's really good. But we've all been in airplanes and restaurants where kids are screaming, and that's a social stigma and a social pressure that I'm sure parents feel like, well, we can sidestep that by giving them something that's right in their brain.
Valium.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Yeah, come to Spain. Kids are allowed to be kids in Spain. So you go to a restaurant and they just kids are running around screaming and going bonkers, and it's actually quite refreshing because obviously you go home like I feel that pressure in the UK. When I say to my own son, I was like, "Shh, no, don't be silly." But Spanish parents like.
Well, my missus is Portuguese, so it's all good.
So it'll be similar, then she'll understand.
Yeah.
Did they send in restaurants so they get the kids to practice stealing fish by going to the
only sardines in Portugal?
No, practice in that fish tank, and then we'll take you to Britain.
I haven't witnessed it personally, but I'm sure they do.
No. I think their quota's been revised, so I think they've got enough to keep them going for the moment. But it is interesting because there's a big debate in Spain at the moment about access to digital media. I think France has banned it or is going to ban it for under 15s, and in Spain they're talking about banning it for under 16s. And in my kids' school, there's a big push by the Parent Teacher Commission to educate parents on the risks of social media and the risk of giving kids digital devices too early. They used to have those tablets, again, similar to going back to what we were talking about universities before, Paul, about this kind of incentivization of having devices just for the sake of devices. So there was a big rage for kids in the nursery to have tablets and they could play games on it. And the educational value of that was questioned, rightly so. Like, what are the kids learning through this that they couldn't learn through reading a book? And they've banned them in most schools now.
See, I worked in e-learning during COVID, and the word that I just hate it. I hate it with such passion is gamification. It's the worst form of learning. There's no learning involved in gamification.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, but this is why I get frustrated. Many reasons, a lot of them personal, but also why I get frustrated thinking about these things is that the answer's so obvious that it's not actually about doing anything. It's about stop doing it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not trying to diminish it, but it's like an alcoholic saying, you know, what should I do? Well, you need to stop drinking. That's basically it. I understand it's much more complicated than that, but with digital technology, it isn't, or it shouldn't be.
No, and that's why I said earlier, I think it's a revolution of the mind, isn't it? It's mind over matter, and it's that you physically have to do something that is physical. So whether it's like, you know, mountain biking or hiking across a moor, it's infinitely better for you in terms of just health, but also, you know, you're one with nature, or as close as you can be in the modern era. I mean, I foolishly took on an allotment last year, which was far too big a project, and I looked at it once. I think I've been there twice. It didn't last very long.
James, but do you want some advice from a professionally lazy person?
Yes.
It'll cost you, but get someone to tarmac the allotment.
Yeah, that's my plan. It's literally my plan.
Buy a deck chair. No, imagine you could sit on a deck chair and watch everyone else work themselves silly.
Yeah. That's what people do. People do down there. That's what's so crazy. People have built gardens. I'm like, why don't you just stay at home? Or maybe they don't have gardens.
But I guess the problem we have
maybe they're married.
Well,
they're there with the missus, which is crazy.
All right.
A family project. But we do have this problem. Like, I think you've got to, if you're addicted to something, you've got to first of all feel like you're addicted and feel like it's too much for you to do something about it. And I think the danger that I see anecdotally with people who are addicted to mobile phones and addicted to online and things like that is, do they feel themselves that it's a bad thing? Do they feel that they need to go and look for help to digitally detox? And at the same time, digital detox is a concept linked to the wellness industry. What a lot of people do is they digitally detox. You know, they stop using their phone for a couple of weeks. Their dopamine goes back to normal. But actually, they're still within what we're talking about, this kind of essence of technology. But
isn't there a problem that a lot of people are basically high-performing cabbages? So no, but seriously, I meant that in a positive, constructive way. So, for example, raw dogging when you're sat on a plane. And they don't read a book. They just sit there and look blankly into space. And
but this is my point.
Yeah, that's not going to last because it's not fulfilling.
Yeah, it's not fulfilling, but people are trying to digitally detox through digital and technological means. As in, they're detoxing because they want to optimize themselves, to reinsert themselves back into the digital system to perform better. So I think there's that danger with a digital detox that you think you're removing yourself, but you're only removing yourself temporarily. To use the analogy of an alcoholic, it would be basically like saying, right, I'm gonna quit booze for 2 weeks, but then I'm going to start drinking twice as much 2 weeks later, because I start to feel better. So you're almost kind of like a relapsing alcoholic.
Can I give a specific example and question? Do you know online Chris Williamson?
I don't know.
He's a major influencer. There's the Diary of a CEO, and there's the other guy, Chris Williamson. I always think of them together. They're completely different blokes. But he is a massively high achiever. I think he came from the Northeast originally, and he ran he was like a club compere He organised all these club events, and on the back of that, he just grew and grew and grew. And he's a major online presence. But he recently, I think it was in October, he released a video that he had massive health problems. And he was getting blood transfusions in Mexico and all sorts. And he blamed it on, it's a bit like, what's the name, the Canadian guy with a high voice? Peterson, yeah. He's also, Williamson and Peterson have complained about black mold being the cause of their immune system going haywire. Now, I don't mean to be snarky, that could be true, but it strikes me as much more likely they are two examples of people who've dived so deep into the digital world. Yeah. They're constantly performing, they're constantly working. And if these people who are supposed to be reflective influencers are pathologically unable of stepping back. So Chris Williamson made this video about his illness. So he's filming himself getting blood transfusions in Mexico. And I'm thinking, to answer one of the points you made earlier, James, what did he ever think of taking 4 months off and doing nothing? Yeah. Rather than filming himself having blood transfusions in Mexico and therefore still working.
I suppose the problem is if he did that, he would lose his business.
Or my response to that would be, or he can carry on and eventually kill himself.
Yeah, yeah. There's that, isn't it? That's the trade-off, isn't it? It's
so,
difficult.
But I honestly, maybe I'm just projecting and being pompous by thinking I know better. But my guess is that he can't take the 4 months off, not because he can't afford to, because he just can't.
Yeah.
And I think Peterson's the same. Peterson was forced through, but Peterson's had a drug addiction. He's on an all-meat diet and all these, what I consider to be borderline bonkers stuff. And I think and he's always crying. He's always emoting. He's like a right-wing Jimmy Kimmel. It's bizarre. But all of these are emotionally dysregulated people. Yeah. Because I think they're not grounded.
No.
It's true.
Which begs the question. I think I'm immensely emotionally regulated, but who'd want to be me? So there is this dilemma.
Yeah.
What is the thing we're supposed to be aspiring to?
What's normative? Yeah. No, absolutely.
I think
it's like a moving target.
Go on. Sorry.
No, you go, James. I was just going to say it's a bit like a moving target. If we don't really know what normal is supposed to be, and we don't have a baseline, it's very hard to aim. Okay, what do we do to become that, in a sense?
It's one of the real issues with something like YouTube, though, is that the reason why, in my opinion, it's so successful is because whether you watch it or you create it, you can be it. Like you could watch YouTube for 20 years and then one day pick up a camera and then you could find instant success and be the influencer that you've always been glued to. Yeah. And I think that's the problem with, to go back to AI, it's like all that kind of stuff is going to kill this platform because it's going to kill that connection between the audience and the influencer. If you can't be what you see, or if you can't, in some way feel like you can, I'm not sure that the platform's going to survive much longer than that, because it's always been a platform of just, amateurs throwing stuff up online. I remember YouTube back in the day, when it was cat videos only. You know what I mean? And it's gone off the rails a little bit, hasn't it, since then? But it's
I think Stuart and I are doing our bit, though, as we're in the vanguard of the demotivational movement.
Well, it's the digital dirty protest. I coined the term digital dirty protest. It's basically like flinging as much mad into the system to hope it malfunctions.
Well, have you heard the AI slop backlash, where people are like putting code into their web pages? So like when the AI scans it all of a sudden throws in like a souffle recipe or something.
And that messes it up.
It's trying to mess up the AI scanning there and stealing their stuff. It's like, that seems to be the only way forward if you don't want to take part in this AI revolution.
So it's almost like, it's like Terminator, isn't it? We are the renegades fighting back. That's it. In the hinterland.
Throwing digital feces at the AI overload.
Sorry, James. At a certain part of every talk, digital aporia here gets rather scatological.
Right. I do.
And he starts talking about monkeys throwing feces, and we have to indulge him. It normally lasts about 6.5 minutes.
It's a condition,
He comes out the other side, not spouting fecal
serious,
issues.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll strap myself in. Hang on.
That happens. 5 more minutes to go, guys. No, but I mean, I think the whole AI thing at the moment, I mean, that's obviously like the zeitgeist. And I was watching an interview with Sam Altman about him talking about his goals for AI, and then it was one of these CEO interview shows where one influencer was saying he's interviewed a lot of CEOs who are big players in the AI space, and they're obsessed with this artificial general intelligence, in a sense that making a platform that can help you do your homework or can help you search for recipes and things like that, or put together a letter, is actually just the data gathering phase. What they really want to do, and they almost like believe it like a cult, is they want to create this artificial general intelligence, and they believe and they know the dangers that this could cause, but they're kind of driven by this idea that if I know this could be a bad thing, but if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, and then I don't have the power. So there's a 50-50 chance that I create an artificial general intelligence that solves every single problem and I control it. But there's also a chance that the artificial general intelligence is infinitely more intelligent than me, and then it kills everyone. So it's like 50-50, and a lot of them are saying that, yeah, I know this could go terribly wrong, but someone else is going to do it. So I need to make sure that I have my chips in the game, so to speak, that I get it. And it's so crazy the way they think about it, in a sense that this is kind of rolling like a snowball rolling down a hill and growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and we also almost kind of like lose control completely. And everyday people, the polish that we're not part of this anymore, because there's a very small number of people with a lot of power who have this idea, this almost like cult-like idea that we're going to go through with it. And that's also scary.
Yeah, but then that's verging on the conspiratorial. I get that, but also if you just look through literature, Faust, Frankenstein,
history repeated. Yeah.
It's an identifiable trait that people take science, beyond its reasonable limits. That there's an irony that the rationality and the reason behind science can itself become irrational when it's over applied in the wrong areas. And I've had public debates with people about the appropriate role of science, and the kickback is, well, it shouldn't be limited, it's the only game in town. And it just strikes me as, I'll give you a daft example, Ozempic. I said right from the beginning, nature isn't like that. There is no one pill that won't have terrible consequences. I was just reading in the paper today, they're identifying issues with pancreatic issues they weren't formerly aware of. Well, no shit, Sherlock. What does your pancreas do? It controls your metabolism.
Exactly.
If you artificially mess with your metabolism, your body's going to have some type of compensatory response. And it's a bit like the digital thing. Everyone says, oh, maybe we should take the phones off the kids. Who the hell thought it was a good idea to let them have them in school in the first place?
Yeah, that's right.
And they're now reactively saying, Ozempic might be bad for your pancreas. An idiot like me who has zero medical knowledge could have told you that 6 months ago.
That's the Platonic pharmacon, isn't it? I mean, is it quite literal pharmacon? Blessing and a curse.
Maybe I've got a vested interest because I'm just going to eat a Desperate Dan-sized dinner the minute I get off this call.
A cow pie.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? When you said snowball effect, the only thing I could think of was the First World War, because it feels like it's inevitable and it's going to happen, and it's just a matter of when. We're at that stage where there's no walking it back now.
Yeah,
but it's such a strange position to be in, because, like you say, I'm a filmmaker that works in the digital space, so it's my livelihood that I'm going to lose to AI, and it's also. It's just the humanity, the danger to humanity, the truth. Who's going to control the truth or whatever? Ow, my cat just attacked me. Must be talking bollocks.
Self-censoring cat.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it just seems like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And taking phones off kids, if you tell someone they can't do something, the first thing they're going to do is gravitate straight towards it and do it. If you say you can't swear, someone's going to swear. Happened to me earlier. You didn't tell me not to swear, but it's a live stream.
Don't worry.
It's just, I don't know who's asking for it. That's the big thing. It's the same thing with smartphones. I'm sure back in, I can't really remember it, now, but I'm sure back in the day people were going, why do we need these things? Why do we need this? And it's so apparent to me, not just because of the filmmaking thing, and it's my job, but I don't see who needs to outsource their thinking to a machine? Who needs to do that? Who really wants to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a bit of a danger. We can probably start bringing it to a close, and I found a couple of quotes which kind of they kind of represent two ways of thinking. So this Mark Andreessen quote, he's basically saying here, he's very kind of hard. Technology is a tool that we can solve these problems with better technology. So if AI is not working or AI is malfunctioning, then we just need to make better AI, so to speak. If digital media is having negative social effects, we just fix it with more digital media. But there's a quote from C.S. Lewis that I really like. This idea of being able to turn round. When we think of history as a kind of evolution and progress, consistent progress. But could the digital and digital technology be a bit of an evolutionary dead end? Do we get to the point where we think, yeah, this isn't working? This is actually having so many negative physical effects, societal effects. Do we turn around on the path and walk backwards? Maybe it's what Gen Z is doing with this kind of new obsession with physical media.
Yeah, but it's also maybe don't presuppose that it's going to be a conscious choice. Remember, the Dark Ages happened.
Yeah.
The idea that culture is on an always upward curve, just historically, is not true.
Absolutely.
The Roman Empire, the most powerful empire after the British that the world has ever seen, that completely fell apart. The barbarians took over.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the situation we're in. It's the digital barbarians, it's the mountain bike riders in Lycra, and it's the game-playing addicts.
I don't actually own any Lycra, Paul. I'm into trail riding, so I have baggy clothes.
You leave me to my fantasies, Stu.
Yeah, it's my secret OnlyFans account. Mamelin Spain, at Mamelin Spain, 20 euros a month.
It's just the fee. It's just the fee, honest.
Yeah, personal pics extra. Yeah.
Oh dear. So is that about it on that image?
On that lovely image, yeah. There we go.
Right, well, that was fun.
Absolutely, great chat today.
I don't think James is as boring as you said he'd be, Stu.
That was you, wasn't
it? Doubly so.
How can someone with such a lovely Barry White voice be boring, Paul?
Yeah, that is James. That is a top voice. Can I just say that?
Oh, thank you very much. I've always thought that I was nasally and high pitched and very girly.
You have a very and Stuart is. You're not.
That's me. Yeah, that's my role.
Yeah.
I'll just constantly stay next to you then, and I'll always feel better about myself.
Yeah. Mine's all right. Mine's all right until I get angry or excited, which is about 95% of the time. Yeah. And then it sounds like a raging helium balloon.
Fair enough.
So I would go with what you've got.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So a life of voiceovers awaits you.
Until AI takes that. I think it's already won that battle, isn't it?
I think, yeah. I think AI's there already. Never mind.
Oh well.
Join only fans like me, James.
I'll just get my feet out.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm going to be ill. I've got to go and eat. Right, I'm calling this to an end.
Let's cut now. Yeah, cut.
Thanks, everyone. I'm sure we will get together another point in the near future. So thank you for watching and all the very best. Take care.
Really take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.